Hello and welcome to AM Guitar with me, Anjay. Today we are looking at the ODR1 from Nobels again, but this time we're looking at both the virtual VST version that you'd use in something like Reaper and how it sounds compared to the physical version of it. So, Nobels and Lancaster Audio got together and made a VST, a plug-in version of their sort of fantastic ODR1, which is without doubt one of my favourite drive pedals ever. And I now have a lot of drive pedals. The idea was to be able to create a plug-in version of their pedal that anybody could make use of in their recordings. What I wanted to find out was how close does the virtual version sound to the physical version, and what extra can it do that my pedal can't do just plugged in. So what I'm going to do is just basically compare and contrast them together using a looper, nothing clever. You're going to see a recording of the screen that I'm using to do this rather than my pretty little face. You have to do without me for a few minutes. And then I'll just come back and you can tell me what you think. On with the demo. Okay, we're set up. I have a looper pedal going into the physical version of the ODR1 into the audio interface. On Reaper, I have the ODR1 plugin set to exactly the same settings as the physical pedal, which will be the same all the way throughout, except for the physical pedal has a level of 5 and the virtual pedal has a level of 3, just to try and get unity gain. And then it all goes into the Torpedo Wall of Sound, which is a cab simulator, going into the power amp section set to about 12 o'clock because it just gives you a nice clean tone to work with. And remember, this is about comparing the emulation, not the tone necessarily. So here is the clean sound. And what I'm going to do is just switch between the virtual drive and the real drive. The idea will be, whatever I do on the virtual drive, I will then do on the physical drive. So the settings you see on the virtual drive for drive and spectrum will be the same as those on the physical drive. You'll see me switching the virtual one on and off because the little light will go on and off. So you'll know if that's off, I'm using the real drive. If it's on, I'm using the virtual drive. So we're going to start with the virtual drive. I'm going to switch that on, and here we go. So I think, personally, the virtual version of the ODR1 there has more drive. So if I bring this up to 5 o'clock, or sorry, 5, put these onto 5 as well. Let's just switch between them and just see which one I think is, which one we think's got the most drive. So I'm listening to this live as you are. I'm going to turn on the ODR1 virtually first, and then we'll switch between the two. Again, look for the on-off light. Yeah, I think the drive on the ODR1, the virtual ODR1, is slightly higher. So let's see if we can get them to unity and just see where that sits. So I'm going to turn the virtual drive, sorry, the real drive up to 6 and leave the virtual drive on 5. That's about right. So whilst the virtual drive is on 5, the real drive's on about 6. Now you can probably account for that on the fact this is going to an audio interface. There are probably interactions there because they have a preamp built into them. So actually, I would say that the emulation is pretty close. Now let's see what the bass cut does. So I'm going to leave them at this now new Unity version of both settings. So the drive pedal on the ODR1 physical, sorry, the drive on the ODR1 physical version is 6. On the virtual, it's 5. We're going to just play with the bass cut. We're going to start with the ODR1, just so you can hear the VST version, so you can just hear what it sounds like with and without it. So this is without the bass cut, and then when I click it on, it'll be with the bass cut. So it just takes a little bit of the bottom end out. It's not as big an effect as I feel as the physical one. So let's try the physical one, which is a little bit more difficult to do, but I'll do my best. So we're on the physical version now. This is with the bass cut off, and I'll just say on and off. I think the bass cut on the physical pedal does a lot more. You can hear me switching it in and out, and you can just almost feel the lift on the pedal itself as the tone just pushes through a little bit more, takes some of that bass out. Okay, now we're going to play about with some of the settings on the VST version. First of all, we're going to look at voltage. Now, the voltage, on the real version, you can go up to 18 volts. What the voltage modeling does is basically try and emulate a 9-volt battery reducing in power or going above 9 volts with different power supplies. And it's a really interesting example of what headroom is. So when we talk about headroom, we talk about how much you can do to the signal before it breaks up. So at 5 volts, I'm expecting this to be almost distortion, and at 18 volts, I'm expecting this to be much less distorted, much more overdrivey, I think. So here it is at 9 volts. 18. So yeah, I'm right. But 5 volts, it's almost a fuzz. And at 18 volts, it's much, much cleaner. So the voltage modeling on this really is interesting because it allows you to take the standard kind of ODR1 sound and really do some interesting stuff with it. Now, the tolerance modeling is all about the components, so you can randomize it to change the tone slightly, so it changes kind of like the capacitor tolerance, the resistor tolerance, and it does it in a random way. Now, I've never tried this before, so it's the first time I'm hearing it. It may do absolutely nothing. So again, everything's set at 5, voltage is back down to 9 because I've switched it off. We're going to play it without the modeling and then with the modeling. So without. With. Okay, so it does make some differences. The more you hit randomize, the more you can hear little tweaks in the tone. It's mostly just kind of, yeah, it's a little effect on the tone, a little effect on how much drive there is. But if you're really into your tone, you really want to find something unique, being able to randomize the tolerance in the components of the pedal will probably be quite an attractive feature for you, just to try and make something unique that no one else has. Now, for me, the VST version, with a bit of tweaking, is almost identical to the physical version. Obviously, we're not taking into account certain things. So, as you saw in the video, I had to make some alterations to the drive and the volume to make them unity with each other, because of just the fact that it's going through, physical pedal goes through leads, it goes into a preamp in the Focusrite, then into the computer. So there are things that affect the signal path on this, whereas the virtual version is just a pure kind of version of the pedal. Other things will affect it as well. You know, the length of the lead you're playing into your guitar, you're playing from your guitar with, whether there are buffers in front of it or behind it. There are all sorts of things that could affect it. However, for me, the virtual version is close enough to the original to be perfect for recordings. When you take into account that you can play around with the voltage and the tolerance modeling, it becomes a really attractive prospect to be able to use what sounds like an incredibly natural overdrive in a virtual environment. So for my money, and I think the VST plugin costs about the same as the physical pedal, might be cheaper actually. I'll put the price in the description below, and I'll probably flash it on screen to prove I'm wrong. But either way, I think if you're recording a lot, especially if you record more than you gig, or if you have a particular setup that you love the ODR1 in, but you also want a virtual version of it to make life easier, get the VST. Lancaster and Nobels have done an incredible job modelling what is essentially an iconic and classic pedal now, and have come out with something that sounds pretty much perfect. Let me know what you think in the comments. Have you used something like this? Do you use both? Did one sound better than the other? Would you prefer one compared to the other? All that good stuff. Chat to me down in the comments, like, subscribe, and I'll see you again soon. Cheers.